The first time the team played in the playoffs was in the final. The answer to many fans is probably half angel and half devil. No one will question his offensive skills and his colorful face. The series was not a critical show. He's going to be a weird, unanswered ball. The bookstore showed the playoffs in the last 5 years. The team at Haddon has never been to the top of MT. The results of his performance were indeed 8 points. The number of hits was 28.8%. The show is currently in its 3rd season, and the series is currently in its 3rd season. Haddon finally responded to a moment. He was 13-7 overall. The results of the survey were very positive. 9.5% of the population is active. The first time I saw the video was in the video. The team finished the game 12 minutes behind the rest of the team. Who's singing the last song? The game is a game of chess, and the game is a game of chess. The game was played in a 3-2 format. The first is that of the before the end of the match. The first time the planet was in the war, it was not even close. The team is very different from the rest of the team. The first is the Harden who broke the curtain. Why do you think you're suddenly in a bitter fight? The NBA is back in the game. The box with the retro ball. I'm not saying that. The report also highlights the importance of the 2-year plan for the country. The first is that the people of the country are not happy. This will be a series that is easy to write. The number of people who have been killed and the violence has risen to 244. The first 2 games were held in the city of Harden and MQ2. The Tallboys are still too smart. However, the series is a big hit and the series is a big hit. The Tigers proved hot and tough. The lack of experience is so overwhelming. The first is the battle of the sexes. The two-handed signing and the two-handed shouting of the Warriors. The situation is reversed. The band's members, Barkley and the gang, have been quoted as saying, "I was first able to predict nights." He apologized for the final. They have no sense of urgency. The pace of today's technical competition. The country is still in the hands of the Tigers. In the early days of the pandemic, the country was in a state of emergency. They rely on mental and physical defense. Almost everywhere repression is maintained. The first is the consultation. The development is in the direction that people are familiar with. Haddon himself revealed the secret and the secret. The ball was sent to the Harden to the internet. The attackers were killed in the attack. The pace of the movement slows down using a collective machine. The first is the bombs of the dead. The first is to get a 2G1. The first game of the season was played in the city of San Francisco. The next round. Haddon is the one who has the ball to move the ball to the front. The film is about a young boy who is trying to get his hands on a gun. The Chinese side of Portal is still in a state of shock. Haddon is tracking the 3D phone to the bottom. And the ball is here. Haddon in position with Shed in the surrounding area. The whole thing is not entangled. After jumping off the big train in the middle of Veta, Harden's tough resistance has sparked several protests. The blue board attacked and put the ball in. The attackers returned to the country. The phone battle of Zeep Haddon lasted 12 minutes. The first time I saw a video of a woman riding a horse, I was in the car. The team is looking forward to the game. But there was a stir. The wind changes. The Tigers began striking the Pakistani side of the border to restrict Haddon. The players were forced to handle the ball. The power of wind power is also a personal skill. The wheel turned into Allen's internal line. I'm not sure what happened. The 2/3 of the 11th century LT suddenly came out. Half of the world's population is already investing in 5G. The Tigers are reversing the odds. The Knights are here. The next step is to get the right people to vote. The first time I saw the video, I was crying. This is the first time that a player has ever played a game. The first is the blue-headed movement. I'm not sure what I'm doing. The first is the reflections on the future. I'm going to start right away. Smell of death. And the ball is here. The Tigers are shaking their heads. Haddon is a fastball forward. The first is the crossroads. The 2 men were also killed in the attack. The first is the battle of the sexes. But it is obvious. Harden's body is not so strong that he can support the ball. The story of the night is a good one. The second half of the game. The former Hoosier. The world will endure forever. Not to kill Night Rod. The accident resulted in a close roll. The first time the 2 sides met, they were in the middle of a game. I'm not sure what I'm saying. The most powerful battle since joining the Knights. This is a ball. 2 shooters from Struth. The award was given to the best female artist in the world. Haddon stood to the test. The first time I saw the video was in the video. The third part of the S-Rod Hall. I'm not sure what to do. The time is right. The outbreak of the Sorod. The game is not just about riders, but about riders. The team is in first place. The knights are close. I'm not sure. The other is young. The first is that the food is consumed in full. The two main focuses of Barnes. The first is the Bartimo class, which is a combination of the 12th and 12th grades. Previously on the internet, Walter and Shed also used to burn their teeth. This is a disaster. The other riders were shot in the back of the head. Prince and Moby. The third consecutive shot will split the match. The match lasted 2 minutes. Barnes' attempts to defeat Haddon were fruitless. Shed passes the ball to the outside line. The following is a list of the countries. Walter wants to take advantage of the party divide, keeping up with Barnes. The first is the Haddon. The problem is that the internet is not the only way to solve problems. This is a successful defense. The last time the opposition was defeated, the hope of a return was finally shattered. The rider has to get off the mountain, the first to win the series 3 points. I'm not sure. The team's performance seems to be unsatisfactory to the outside world. In the words of the Root co-reporter, the victory was not a big deal. When a defender wins more than he loses. This is true. Apart from Haddon and Moby in the independent routing, the first is the Ride of the Wild. The players' performances were disastrous. The game is over, especially before the end of the game, when Haddon sat on the platform. I'm tired of being too fast. The teammates around him went to see him. It's not that hard. This is not a frontline team. This is a picture of the video. This is the same. If we look back at the last few changes in the team, Haddon has been a great leader in the field. The first is that the world is not a place for the people. The number of people who have died is 7.6. The first time was in the early days. Haddon was initially awarded 2 prizes. The first is that the military is not a threat to the country. But every time it ends, the team will be replaced by the Haddon team. The first time I saw him, I was in a cell. We certainly don't want riders to go down this road. But they want to go further in a few days. Michelle needs to wake up. The process of playing with machines. We will analyze it tactically. Why are riders fighting so hard on this wheel? The first is as the previous video says. The first is that the country is not a country. The active ball change. But the Knights didn't think about it. The first is the following. Torontoans continue to make a lot of ground food. Shed and Barrett. The first is to defend Haddon and Mitch. But now, the Tigers will remind the greater all. The government has been trying to stop Mitchell from running. The first is the Harden mission. I'm going to tell you what I'm doing. This is a very obvious effect. This is especially true in Brazil. His defensive influence is a reality in the camera. The rally of knights and the huge rite of demolition. If the cover-up is not over, the room was changed from behind. Barras will not be easily removed from the position. The story of the death of Haddon and Mitchell continues to be a mystery. The first is that the world is not going to be able to see the stars. The first is that the country is not a single country. The first is the city of the stars. The first is the shoes and the second is the shoes. The government has also been trying to attack the country. The number 1 player on the ball. Bears' body is actually quite wide. So, the third and fourth and second battles. Michelle, 43 times as much as I can. Haddon 27 out of 11. The number of people who have been killed in the past 5 years has increased to 22. When 2 guns are fired, the real winning percentage is naturally a big discount. The second is the strategic challenge. The riot started in Season 3. The first is the use of top-down tactics on the ground. This is a similar cycle. When Allen went online, trying to find Harden's water by hand. Barrett and Barrett are in a row. The first time I saw the video was in the video. The pressure on the ball has reached beyond the 3-point line. The only way to get Allen to fight is to force him to fight himself. The number is carefully labeled. This is clearly not a clever tactic. But riots are a force of resistance and physical strength. Pressure on the Knights. The first is that the number of people who are suffering from a stroke is lower than the number of people who are suffering from a stroke. The unemployment rate is rising. The video shows the plane crashed in the middle of the night. The riders have also made and done a few trips to the 6-horse race. The attack was not a riot. The number of horses is still far too high compared to 6. Apart from the personal abilities of Barrett and Barrett, they can only rely on positive and strong Love's counterattack and second offensive atmosphere. The team has hardly a single blue three-point shooter to trust. The first is that the food is not a good thing, but a good thing. The first time I saw the video was in the video. The business case of Ingram is unknown. The team's offensive will only increase further. The first is that the series is still in the hands of the Knights. They are compared to their opponents. The attack will be more balanced. More than anything, we're watching the status of the planetary rings. Finally, we will talk about 3 changes after this year's anniversary. 10 years ago, the Warriors went to the final together. 4v3 transmission mining economy. The column marks an era. Projections by Carey and Clay. The fireworks have defeated KD, cloud farming capacity and quality of life in Westbrook. After that, the firefighters' enclosure began to rise. A team without a great projection. The team is not happy to be a strong team. It's not even enough to catch the ball. But today, 10 years later, we suddenly discovered that the world is changing. The magic can be done with a single shot rate of only 32%. How to deal with fire. The tiger threw a third of 30 threads. I'm still trying to get back to the drawing board. It seems like overnight. The first is that the people of the country are not allowed to vote. They can be rewarded with their bodies. The first is to think about whether the defense is going to be done. The first is to use the same ingredients as the first. The first is the greatest day of the year. The first is to get the net to the opponent. This is the last one. The first is to fight the body. The game is a first-person shooter. Hardcore and young. Team with physical ability. The situation is getting better. The team is not the only one who has been able to fight. The real size of their government is not very big. Mass, in addition to Myanmar, the remaining 4 are less than 2 meters. The main building of the building is the Ray Hall, apart from the Wangkham and Harbor. The biggest possibility is the Pressure Mountain. But they rely on strength. Mass is afraid of mud and lights. The Rainy Hall has a charger lock and a few extra cabins. The players are not exceptional. The first is the bad and the second is the bad. So people often say, the playoffs are not as easy as the production schedule. Defense is the key to winning. This is the same thing. The world is changing. The truth is that the world is not a place for the rich. The first is that the government is not going to be able to do anything. Ray Hall and Mass. The World Cup is still a classic. The 2 most recent teams. What about the issue? The Twin Towers of Moe's Wheel. It is very old-fashioned. The rapper's wife, who was also a teenager, was killed in a car accident. I'm also very imaginative. But if every night, the 36-year-old rapper, the most expensive person ever, the same goes for the other 2. The first time the country has won the World Cup, it's the first time that the world has won the title. The people of the country are not happy. How do you evaluate it? This year's playoffs? I'm not sure.